Does most marketing fail? You do know most marketing fails, correct? Most marketing does fail.
Is that because you don't engage people?
There it is. People, you don't engage. People aren't engaged with your product because that is the biggest problem. So many companies look to market their product with solutions without really thinking about not only who their target market is, but where is that target market going to resonate with what you have. That's part of what story selling and story building is about, is creating stories that engage with your target audience. Because as we all know, not everyone's your customer, correct? You're a photographer, so not everyone's your customer, right? That would be silly, right? For you to go after everyone, because you can't meet everyone's needs, and you don't want to meet everyone's needs. You want to segment your niche and focus in who your audience is. So engagement is a big problem today, and you see it every year. I mean, in 2 weeks we have the Super Bowl, right? We see a lot of does anybody really, outside of the really creative commercials, do we really remember what a lot of these commercials are and what, not only, I guess maybe not so much what the commercial is, but what the products are they represent?
Half the time, you can't even tell from the commercial what that was about.
Right. Absolutely. Because they've focused all of their time and attention into just being completely, they gain the attention, obviously. It's very entertaining, but there's more to crafting a marketing message than just being entertained, right? So yes. Everybody familiar with Seth Godin? Has anybody read his book, All Marketers Are Liars?
I have it, but I haven't read it.
Oh, that is by far, here it is right here in case you want to see it. By far one of the best books that he's ever written. All marketers are liars. Of course, he doesn't mean all marketers are liars. He goes into the book to say all marketers are really storytellers. And that's what you want to do.
Doesn't he have another one where he's crossed out liars and written
Yeah, his updated,
That's
I think one of his
I've got.
updated version. I got his original where they left on the liar part. But yeah, his newer version has liars crossed out and it says storytellers. But he's got a great quote: marketing is creating products and services that lead your tribe to tell stories that spread. That's why most marketing fails, is because most marketers or most businesses don't create stories that engage with their audience and create and make them want to spread. Think of the biggest brands, or think of the most popular brands out there. Like, it's easy to mention Apple. They've got obviously built-in, a built-in fan base. But Harley Davidson, I'll mention them here a little bit later. There's a fantastic book I encourage you to read. I always share books, things that I recommend each month at this marketing meetup, stuff that I'm reading. Harley Davidson, they build a tribe around their brand, correct? I mean, what does it mean to own a Harley? What does it mean to ride a Harley? Well, it's more than just buying a bike, right? It's a whole community. They've created a whole community called Hogs. I mean, Harley, what is it? Harley Owners Group. Yes, Harley Owners Group. So, I mean, it's all about going more than just, you're not just creating a product, you're not trying to sell it, but you're trying to get people to understand and put it in terms of an engaging story. Now, we're going to talk about how to craft an engaging story from start to finish, because everyone needs some way to tell to give their message out there. Okay, so I don't know why that text shows up at the bottom. So let's take toothpaste, for instance. Nothing real exciting about toothpaste, right? How do you sell a tube of toothpaste? How do you market something as boring as toothpaste?
Attached to something else somebody wants.
Absolutely. Attractiveness.
Sex.
Okay. That's a stretch.
That's
Yeah.
I'm not being.
Yeah, I know. No, I see what you're saying.
Most of the ads are about.
But
The opposite sex.
But would that align with toothpaste? How would that align with toothpaste? Something like a message like that. I mean, because that's a stretch. I got to tell you, right? With toothpaste.
I don't know.
No.
Close-up did it
Yeah.
for years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's
Wider, more attractive.
more
better
attractive.
breath,
Okay.
more
Brush your teeth
attractive.
before bed.
Yep. What's that?
Brushing your teeth before bed.
Brushing your teeth before. Okay, very good, very good. But you see a lot of toothpaste brands today are going wider smile. I mean, every brand that I see out there is talking about getting that wider smile, that cleaner look. You know, I mean, that's what everybody. Obviously, that's the first and foremost thing in my mind when I think about toothpaste is what's the one that's got the best. It's going to give me the widest smile, correct?
And I want the one that's got the least nasty stuff in it, so I like
Bingo!
this.
So let me ask Carol a question. What kind of toothpaste do you use?
I use particularly healthy toothpaste with no fluoride, and I really like it if I can recycle it. So
Is it good?
my husband's using Tom's.
That's why I was going to ask. What kind do you use? Because they have. This is a prime example of a company that has taken, and they do more than just toothpaste
But they got
products.
fluoride in that one, I can see.
Yes, yeah, they do have fluoride. I think all their toothpaste do have that. No?
No, mine doesn't.
Okay. Is it Tom's?
No, it's an Ayurvedic
Oh,
one.
okay. Yeah, I think what I was going to say. I think all of Tom's products. Have.
No, they don't.
Oh, they
some
don't?
of them that don't. That's
Okay.
right.
Well, what their marketing message is clear is they're not like other brands out there. Their message is we're more of an organic type company. Everything is organic, but we also are very concerned about the environment. If you get on their Facebook page, just as an example, what you see is a lot of images and a lot of stories crafted towards their concern for not only, obviously, they're promoting their products, but their main concern is the environment, right? Protecting the environment. And we'll look at some examples when it comes to visual marketing of some ads that they put out. But they decided their target market wasn't going to be everyone, correct? Their target market was going to be people that were environmentally conscious, like Carol. So, and they decided they weren't going to go after just people that wanted a cleaner smile. They were going to go after people that wanted to not leave a footprint and wanted to be very conscientious about the environment. And so that's where they have made their mark, and it's been very beneficial for them. Here's another example. Does anybody buy this water?
No!
I wouldn't waste my money.
Huge carbon footprint.
So hold that bottle of water up there, Boyd. Is Boyd's bottle of water any better than my Deer Park?
Yeah, this comes from Fiji.
I know.
Why would you do that?
Absolutely. How do I know though? But no, that's a great point. It is because, and that's the importance of storytelling is that you're telling stories that are what? They're not make believe, correct? They're not lies, correct? They're true stories. So when this company sells me, or when they market on their water coming from artesian wells in Fiji, and never being untouched by man until is that what it says on the back of the bottle, Wood? Untouched by man until you drink it, correct? Or maybe they've updated their bottle.
Yeah, I don't see that.
They may have changed that.
It's a continent away from acid rain and other pollutants.
Yeah, it says Fuji comes from the aquifer deep within the earth on the islands of Fiji, bottled at the source. This is the story they tell. Natural artesian pressure forces the water through a sealed delivery system free of human contact. So this water, Deer Park, on the other hand, this could come right out of a tap. I don't know. I mean, it says spring water, correct?
And then it probably comes from the spring.
Right. It probably does. But they don't have a story, do they? I've never seen Deer Park or I've never seen them market. They're just spring water. So, and they're competing with a lot of other water brands out there that are spring water, correct? But Fiji is a little bit different. They've told a story. They've given an example. They've kind of separated themselves. And how do they separate themselves? One, by obviously they tell the story, but they also charge a lot more. I mean, how much do you pay for the, what was that, $3?
I didn't pay anything for it.
Oh.
So it was available at a meeting. I was at.
Okay, all right, $3. I think it's about $3 for a bottle of water. So maybe a little more. So, I mean, they charge a little more, but they can because they're not, are they marketing to everyone? Nope. Right? I mentioned Harley Davidson. This is a great example, and I need to share another book. If you're really, anybody that really loves marketing will enjoy this. It's called Rebuilding the Brand, How Harley Davidson Became King of the Road. It's their whole story about rebuilding their brand in the early 80s. Does anybody know the story of Harley Davidson? They were, to make a long story short, they were bought out and really had to reestablish their image because their image wasn't that great in the late 70s and early 80s. People wanted foreign motorcycles. People wanted Japanese instead of American motorcycles. So they had to really redefine their brand, and what they hung their hat on was status, the journey, and building a community, correct? Building a community based on Harley, people that are Harley lovers, but it was the emotional experience. So take Harley Davidson and take that whole, look at that, and you compare that to companies like Starbucks and all of those. They're building products, they're making products just like everybody else, but they're creating experiences and telling stories around their brand. And that's what you've got to do. Now that seems simple enough, right? So what we need to do is we have to go in and establish our story. What is our story going to be? What is our story going to be based on our business and our product? How do we want people to define us? And that's what we've got to establish. Japanese bikes. Obviously, utilitarian, logical, reliable transportation. Nothing wrong with that, correct? But is that sexy? Or is that fun? No, that's not. I think, in my mind, Dunkin' Donuts has better coffee than Starbucks. But, I still go to Starbucks every now and then. But, the taste, sometimes I get Starbucks, and to me it tastes like it's burnt sometimes. But they still bring me back time and time again because of the experience. You go in there and it always smells great in there. What happens if you go into a Dunkin' Donuts? It looks like a McDonald's, right? That's okay, but it depends on what you want, what kind of environment you want to be in if you go in to do a little work on your laptop. And so Starbucks paints a different brand, but they also tell a different story. Great stories are true, so that's what we want to establish first of all. Just because we tell a story, we're not saying we're telling a lie. Our stories have to be true from the get-go. So Fiji Water's story had better be true, because if somebody finds out, they're toast, correct? And it'll come out. Your story, if you paint a false story, it's going to come out.
Is that number one on our list? A true story?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Well, let's see. Oh, no. No, we're not there yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I'll tell you when we're there at that page. Great stories make a promise. What do you intend to gain in marketing? There's got to be a clear benefit. What do you intend to gain out of, or what does your intended customer expect to gain out of this? And you've got to be very clear in your marketing message what they're going to gain from your product or service. So it's got to make a promise. Great stories are subtle. Less is more. Okay? You don't have to bombard people when you're telling a really good message. Can anybody give me an example of a very subtle message that's very powerful? Just in advertising, anything that you've come across in advertising or marketing?
Just do it.
Just do it. Nike, that's really good. Very subtle, but it works for them. Oh, thank you, boy. Did it go off?
Sure.
So it should be,
Oops.
yeah, and then I think all you should have to do is cut it back on and then hit the red.
I'm sorry. Here's the red button.
It's on the, should be on the corner in the back. I might have to let the photographer.
You have to.
I'm just
I
kidding.
think they're all so different. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't, it should be red.
Oh, you're gonna have to get that.
Hopefully, is it going to come on?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. One ad that stands out to me that was one of the all-time brilliant ads was Smirnoff. Anybody remember the old Smirnoff ads? It leaves you, anybody remember? Breathless. So anybody that knows about vodka knows it doesn't leave an aftertaste on your mouth, correct? So they used that back in the the 70s and early 80s because people would go to lunch and they would have a little cocktail and they didn't want their breath to smell when they went back to the office, correct? So they used that as their as a major marketing message, leaves you breathless. So in other words, you don't have the smell of vodka on your mouth when you go back to the office. That was a home run hit for them. So little marketing message like that doesn't have to be super overly, complicated. They can be very simple messages that tell a story in just a few words. Great stories don't appeal to logic. Remember what we were just talking about? The Japanese motorcycles were very efficient. Practical. But if you're trying to appeal to the logic, you're in trouble because great stories don't appeal just to logic. They appeal to our senses. So it's easy, and I want to emphasize this, it's easy as a marketer in your business to say, it makes sense for people to do business with me because, right? It makes sense to do business. Think about that statement. It makes sense why you should do business with me. But that's a logic-based statement, correct? You want people to really engage with you and want to do business with you. And you can do this for any business. I don't care what business you're in. You can craft a message that really resonates, even if you're an accountant. Nothing against accounting. Accounting's great, but how do you create an emotional message based on accounting? Well, you can do it. It's doable. There are stories that you can tell. Great stories involve others, okay? So if you're simply the person doing the storytelling, there's a problem, right? Because people don't buy just because of what I say, correct? So if Carol's telling me all about her new site and how beneficial it is to people who want to become more environmentally responsible and want to learn more things, I'm gonna trust Carol because I know Carol. But if I don't know Carol and she's telling me this, her message is going to be far more effective if she's got 4 or 5 other people that are saying, you really need to go to this site. You really need to check this out. It's amazing the content that she has on and what she shares with others. So having others share your story or having a community of people or a list of followers that really promote what you say and share your message is very effective. So you don't want to be a standalone. You don't want to be standing alone when you're telling your story. One of the things I do is, and most of you know, I do a regular podcast. And over the last few years, I've created a really nice community in building a podcast on online marketing and business development. It's on iTunes and you can find it. It's called BIB Podcast, but I've got a dedicated group of listeners that listen on a regular basis, and they email me and contact me, and they're on, typically the same ones that listen to my podcast are also on my email list, and I connect with them each week by sending out an email message called my tip of the week, and I give value. I give really it's information based. So my goal is to provide solid information every week and just give them something to take away and apply to their business with no expectation in return. So in doing that, you build a community of people that are loyal, that really become fans. And that's what a lot of the new media, next month we're going to be talking about a lot of the new media and how we're using that to build not just customers but fans, people that really just love and like to tune in and listen to you. So if you are an accountant, can you create something like a podcast and share it and share tips in an emotional sense, share tips or share weekly tips on your podcast or something like that in a way that's very practical and engaging with others and makes sense from an emotional perspective? Yeah, you can do that. People do it all the time. But they use their media platforms to share stories on a regular basis through podcasts, through videos, through online media and all sorts of stuff like that. So, great stories are rarely aimed at everyone. Remember what we just mentioned. Your target market's not everyone. I'm going to share with you. This is one of my projects that I've been working on this past year, and me and my co-author finally got it published a couple of weeks ago. But it's my third book that I've got out, and it's called Selling on the Green. Anybody here a golfer? No? Oh, man. Well, I'm not going to send you a copy of it. So Tim and I, Tim Davis is a great guy. He's a consultant over in Nashville. He's a sales trainer and consultant. He and I got together on this idea last year for a book on sales, building relationships. But we wanted to go at it from a completely different perspective. We decided we would go at it from not just another sales book. I'm going to show you two examples. We decided to go at it from a perspective of sharing this with business people, sales professionals, executives who love the game of golf. So we got very targeted in our niche, correct? So we weren't going after everyone. We also decided the best way, one of the most engaging ways to build a fan base on this book and to share it with others is to go at it from a perspective of telling stories. And so each of these chapters, instead of a book like this, and these are two books that are very similar. This is The Art of Building Relationships and Growing Your Business on the Golf Course. This is a book called Smarter Selling, How to Grow Sales by Building Trusted Relationships. Similar concepts. This one has stories, and it's aimed at golfers who are passionate. I mean, golfers they spend all kinds of money on the game of golf. And so we're looking, this is our target market, is the sales executives who happen to play golf. It's filled with great stories. This one, on the other hand, is going out to anybody that happens to be in the world of sales, right? And it's filled with very few stories in here. I went through this, and it was I couldn't get through this book because it's filled with case studies and stats, which case studies can be good, but statistics and things like this, it was a yawner. This one's not. It's good, filled with stories. So it's a good way to differentiate yourself. But don't target everyone. Go after a segment and build a story. Build your brand around that. Great stories agree with our worldview. Again, you're falling in line with somebody else's worldview. This book on Selling on the Green falls within a worldview of people that are within the world of business who play golf. They understand this book. People that are environmentally conscious, that are on that buy Tom's toothpaste, they have created a message that falls within their worldview, correct? So people are going to buy into that product. So you've really got to establish who your target market is, and then craft your message so that it ties into their worldview. Great stories inspired people to take action. the last thing that you want to do is have a call to action. Everyone needs a call to action. Copywriters, direct response people know that you've always got to have a call to action. But you'd be surprised at the marketing messages out there that give great stories, but then leave you kind of just, what do I do next, right? There's no call to action. What should we do next? One of my favorite, it was a really popular commercial a couple of years ago. It was a Super Bowl commercial, but it was called, does anybody remember? I think it was 2 years ago. It was called The Farmer, right? So very simple. I can't imagine the kind of budget it cost for them to put it together, but it was basically it's an audio of Paul Harvey back in the 70s where he was doing the radio address, and he did the one called The Farmer. So they took that and they ran it up against just several slides of farmers, people on the farm. And I mean, it's just fantastic. I mean, it was one of the most engaging as far as people just loved, one of the best commercials during the Super Bowl. And it was so simple to do, which is another lesson. You don't have to invest, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a marketing campaign that tells a great story. They could have done that for almost next to nothing. But the problem was at the end, they just kind of left you, which a lot of these big, large budget commercials leave you just kind of hanging. What do you do next? They never give you a call to action. What should you do now? From this point on, they just kind of throw their logo up there, and that's all you see, correct? So your marketing message or your story is wasted if you can't give them a call to action. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were raising.
Well, I do actually. So something like Budweiser, you don't need a call to action for that, do you?
Well, no,
cool.
exactly. Well, people kind of know exactly what it is, but do you think those commercials really get people to?
Well, don't get me to do it.
They're entertaining.
It just solidifies the brand.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Those kind of commercials solidify a brand that's already
You're
very
already
strong.
sitting there drinking beer.
Absolutely.
I remember one in Britain. We have a packet of cigarettes called Silk Cut,
Mm-hmm.
and some of these adverts they didn't say anything. They just had a little rip, and you knew just what it was. But again, they don't give you a call to action, except go and buy something. But
Right.
they don't
Absolutely.
say that.
And you're right. Call to action doesn't. I mean, go and buy Budweiser. You've got to be more subtle than that. But you're right. Some brands, those large budget commercials only reestablished.
Yeah, I think they already assume that you've already got the internal urge to go buy
Absolutely.
it. So when you're there, pick hours.
Pick hours. Because if you're watching this football game, you're probably already having a beverage, correct?
Nice cup of tea.
That's right. Yeah. No, I don't think this. I picked this out of an ad, and I wish you could read a lot of the font. But here's the summation of this. They got the do this or die, but here's the message on this particular ad. If your it doesn't matter how great your marketing is, if you have a lousy product, if you don't have a superb product, all the marketing in the world is not going to help you, correct?
Not necessarily.
No.
Comcast still exists.
That's true. But one of the
Yeah, exactly.
who was at Ogilvy, one of the advertisers said a good marketing campaign's only going to help. It's only going to help you if you've got a great product to begin with. But if you've got a bad product, it's going to basically hasten the death of that product because you're drawing more attention to a product that's flawed, that has problems.
Music.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, well,
No.
that, again, it boils down to there's so many segments.
Niche.
I mean, people are in super niche. I mean, you're right. There's some music bands that are just, you're thinking, how in the world? But then they've got dedicated fan bases and people that listen to them on iTunes all the time, downloading their stuff. So, it just shows you how segmented a society we are in terms of our likes and our dislikes. We all have our own personal.
I'll tell you what, how about this statement? How Yes, how good the product is, but how well the product fulfills the worldview.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. How well the product fulfills the worldview. That's good. All right, here we go. This is where we go back to the sheet. 5 ingredients of a good story. Hero. Who's the hero in your story? Without looking. I put it up there. Yeah, it's the customer. The customer is the hero in your story. So when you're crafting a story, your center stage, the whatever your favorite movie is, and the main character, your story is your hero in that story is the customer. So what you're doing, when you formulate a story, you got to start with who that target audience is first, and how you're going to help them. You got to have a goal. How will they be better? How are they going to benefit? Every story's got to have a goal. You got to have a conflict. Need of a conflict. The object that stands between the hero and the goal. And you need a mentor. Who's the mentor? It's your business, your product, or your service. So you can use this this formula. I don't care what you think of any storyboard message or any advertising message where you're using a story. This applies every time. It's fundamental. The hero, you always want the hero to be your customer, and you always want the mentor, the person that comes and helps them along the way, is you. Correct? And the conflict is what they're facing in terms of what's keeping them from achieving their goal, and that's where you come along. So when you're crafting a story, these are always the 5 elements that you should look at. Any questions? You're squinting. What are you missing?
I wear my glasses.
Oh, okay. Wait, what can you, do you need? Okay.
Just the last one.
You need a moral. Tell them what they must do next. Remember, call to action. What's the moral of your story? Again, goes back to that call to action.
But you've got to do all this subtly.
Yeah, you do. Well, not always. Not always. Doesn't always have to be subtle. We'll look at some examples here in a minute.
Cool.
You need a moral. And the moral of the story, you remember, think of any story, like Aesop's Fables. There's always a moral, at the end of the fable, what the lesson was in that. Well, the lesson in our business stories, in storyboarding, our marketing stories, is that you need to do business with us, correct? That's ultimately what the moral is, and this is why you need to do it, because of we have helped this person, and we'll use some examples. Okay, here's a classic example of the 5 parts to a story in an ad. This is a classic ad that these started running back in the 1940s. Charles Atlas ads. These were enormously successful for young people, especially young adolescent males, and that was their target market. But the story is about Mac. It's the title of it's The Insult That Made a Man Out of Mac. In the story, we have Mac, who is just a skinny, like a 98-pound weakling, and he gets sand kicked in his face at the beach by this much bigger guy who is the bully in the story. And so, the bully threatens to, hit him in the face, but he's afraid that he's so skinny and blow away. So Mac is just getting tired. He's over it. He's tired of this bully, so he decides to do something about it. He says, I'm sick and tired of being a scarecrow. So we realize that Mac is faced with a conflict. The conflict is that, he's skinny. He can't do anything about the situation. He's too skinny to face this bully. And so he's got to do something about it. So he sends off for the free book or the guide, and it helps him. So the free book, the Charles Atlas guide, is the mentor. He's sending off for the information. It helps him. He goes through
the Charles Atlas training course on dynamic muscle building. And lo and behold, he has built muscles, and now that bully won't shove me around ever again. So he goes back to the beach, and he deals with the bully. And so we have, the five elements of the story. Mac is the hero. Our, the business or the company or the training course, which is the mentor, the Charles Atlas guide, has helped him through this conflict. And at the end, what is Mac's, during this story, the goal was for Mac to no longer be bullied again. And the moral is, we give it right down at the bottom. Let me prove I can make you a new man. That's the moral, is you won't have to worry about ever being bullied again. And if you just send off for this training guide. So this is a classic example of using the key elements, the 5 elements of a story, in creating your own story within your business. And in this day, at this time, this was when comics were huge, and this was, like I said, this was in a lot of comic books. But today, this could be used in essence to create a video or visual graphics and things like that. But it's just as effective then. You can see the power of stories, how effective they were even back in the 40s, and it's no different today. Things don't change. People are still drawn in by the power of stories. And many youth and many young men and adolescents sent off, tore out this ad or sent off their stamp and ordered this booklet. And of course the booklet was an upsell to the course, and ordered the course. I mean, the series of ads that they ran on these, and they had a lot of different ones, not only just Mac but some others similar to this, but they all featured this skinny kid. And they were so successful because it engaged with the target audience, which was, guys that were getting bullied or wanted to do something about being bullied and wanted to do something about their appearance. So very effective, and this is just it's a great example to look at.
Let's take some examples really quick. So Stephen, who your typical client, is it business or consumer or a little mix of both?
A little mix of both.
Okay.
Currently, it's business and editorial, which is magazine stuff.
Okay.
So,
all right.
One of the things that one of the people that I've worked with recently is a hotel.
Okay.
So finding the story to showing that it's a good time,
right,
and your way to go through that.
Okay. So it was the hotel. Was it a hotel here in the area, or
up in Gatlinburg?
Okay. So hero. So the customer, which was the hotel, and had they dealt with other photographers in the past, or was were they facing an issue? Did they call you for any particular reason, or you reach out to them? You were applying to.
I was working with an agency.
Okay.
And it was they've used me in the past. And
Okay.
Brought me in to do that.
Okay. Had this hotel used other photographers in the past?
They had.
Okay. Were they happy with them, or were they?
They were happy with them for what they did, but they did not tell a story.
Okay.
It was a basic standard interior
Okay.
photography, and that's what they were looking for. Was we were giving them a story.
Okay. Very good. So that's kind of how you structure your business. How does your product or service? First of all, it's almost like in some ways it's reverse engineering. How does your product or service help your customer, and then you can develop a story based on that, or craft a story based on that. And a lot of it's sometimes getting feedback from people that you've already done business with. Why did they choose you? Why did they choose to do business with you? What separated you from everyone else that they were doing business with? So obviously they came to you for whatever reason, and so you need to hone in on that as part of your market, as part of your due diligence in creating a story. And we're going to talk about, one of the big areas of creating stories in your marketing is using customer stories and getting customer feedback and using those stories to help grow your brand. Any questions so far? All right, 5 ways to write persuasive copy. Any copywriters, any former copywriters that we have in here? All right. Well, writing sales copy and writing, persuasive copy, sales copy, doing online copy, whether it's creating a video script or what have you, it's all working off the same fundamentals. You've got to use the power of the imagination, use compelling power of the word. Let me give you an example. This is very powerful. The word because doesn't seem very convincing, does it? There's a great book out called Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. I've mentioned this many times before, by Robert Cialdini. And in the research within this book, he talks about the power of using the word because. It seems commonplace to us, but it's really not, because what they found from the survey and the research was that when people use the word because, in other words, Carol is at the copy, making copies, and I walk up to Carol and I say, Carol, I really need to use the copier, and that's it. 6 out of 10 times, she's going to say, yeah, but that's, those other 4 times she's going to say, really? I was waiting just as long as you were, and I'm sorry. You don't, unless you've got a really good excuse. You see, I haven't given her a valid reason to use that. But if I go up to Carol and say, Carol, I know you've been waiting for the copier, but I really need to do it because if I don't use the copier now and get these 5 copies made, I'm going to be late for my dental appointment, in 45 minutes. What's going to happen then? So what the study showed is that when you use the word because, the statistics went up to it was 90% that people would communicate or take action or affirm that or agree to that, as opposed to not using the word because. So it's amazing just using the word because in your marketing, what that can do, because people want to know a reason why. Why is Fiji water the best water to go with, or the best water to drink? Well, it's the best water to drink because it comes from artesian springs, right? In Fiji. Because it's a powerful word. Use it. Use the compelling word of the word. Use the compelling power of the word because. Use sensory words to appeal to the senses: feel, hear, see, smell, touch. We all are we like to, let's give Apple or a Mac or Apple, for example. What does that appeal to? What's an example of a way that appeals to the feel, hear, see? It's a computer, for goodness sakes, right? How have they managed to break away from other computers, other desktops and laptop computers, and sell a machine that's 3 times what you would normally pay for a Toshiba or a Dell or anything else? How do they manage to do that? Examples on appealing to the senses?
It looks
really cool. Yeah.
What's that?
They look really cool.
Style, sleek, clean.
Touch is nice.
Touch, yeah. And if you look at any of their advertisements, especially a lot of their display advertising, they are very good at visual display. They're one of the best I've ever seen at visual display when it comes to advertising.
And then the why is in there too.
Yes. Yep. What's the why?
I've forgotten, but I know it's got nothing to do with computers. It's just there's a lot of wanting in there.
Let me give you a story. Prior to 2011, I never owned a Mac or an Apple computer. I saw no
benefit whatsoever. I'd been PC. I'd used IBM's, Dell's forever, up until 2011, 2012. I bought my first MacBook, and now if you look at my office, since I've owned like 4 MacBooks, and then an iMac in my office, 27-inch. I'm a fan. So, but what flipped me from 2000? What happened in 2011? Well, I read a book. I read a book about Steve Jobs, and in that book, it told a lot of stories, not from just the advertising, because I'd seen advertising, but you don't really get a lot of television advertising from a MacBook or for Macs. You get a lot for the iPads and the the iPods and stuff like that. But when I read that book and read about just their attention to detail and everything that they did, it was amazing. I was floored. So that was a story in and of itself that really convinced me that, you know what? Sounds like the best computer you can ever buy. I mean, if you think, but what convinced me was reading the story of just his demand for excellence in what he did in creating computers and things like that, and his demand for just the attention to detail and everything. You just don't see that, I mean, I was used to going, a couple of years and replacing the laptop with a PC, but, Macs are known to, those things will last forever. Not forever, but they'll last a while.
Got mine in 2010 and I've still got it.
What's that?
To the operating system the other day.
Is it?
But they will upgrade you for free. They did it with me recently.
Are you on what operating system are you on?
Well, I'm not upgraded to the newest, but
Yosemite?
My dad has a laptop, and the software that he's wanting to use is the hardware can't run the new.
Yeah.
And I've been an Apple fan since the logo was color and the monitors weren't.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So.
You got some history there. That's good. It's amazing. But that again goes back to the power of stories. Telling a story. And in this case, it wasn't so much it had nothing to do with Steve Jobs, because most of that book, if you've ever read that book, for the most part, he comes across as a complete jerk. I came away not really respecting him a whole lot as a person, but he was a brilliant businessman. He was a jerk as a person and a boss for the most part, until his latter years, where he straightened up some things. But what I took away from that most of all, from a design aspect, was that just the way they go about things is amazing. The story of the company is amazing. So let's see. Use seductive power of mini stories. Mini stories. I'm going to give you a couple of examples here in regards to Apple. Compose memorable sound bites. What's some famous sound bites that you're familiar with that you can think of off the top of your head? Carol. Oh, Affleck. Bingo.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Oh, that's a good one.
That's funny you mentioned that, Boyd, because that brings up one of my all-time favorite books, and I'll add that to the list if you haven't, but it's called Sticking Point. No, not. Is it Sticking Point? No, the two brothers. Oh.
Chip and Dan Heath.
Yes. What is that
Made
book?
to Stick.
Made to Stick.
Made to Stick.
Sticking Point. That must be Gladwell or something like that. But Made to Stick. That was a great book. And he talks about they do some case studies on that Made to Where's the Beef, the Wendy's commercial, and why that stuck. And it was the fact that, it resonated with people. But you go to McDonald's and get a hamburger at the time, and there's not much to it. There's a thin little patty. There's nothing to it. And so their sales skyrocketed after that commercial, because people's mind, they created, based on that one commercial, Where's the Beef, they created that story that was working in, because we all create, after we hear a message like that, we all start creating stories in our mind, don't we? We're part of the marketing, because we're creating that message in our subconscious that says, you know what? Wendy's does have thicker beef. They do have thicker patties than anybody else. Thank you, Boyd. So their sales skyrocketed, and they did a survey of any brand out there from, I guess, any type of hamburger, and it was amazing how much people from the surveys that they did agreed that Wendy's had thicker patties, which was not necessarily the case, but from that commercial, people, that hit a nerve, and that engaged with them, and they said, yeah, Wendy's does have the thickest patties out there. But that wasn't really the case. But they created a story in our minds, or in everyone's mind at the time. Here's an example of sensory words. Apple could have written, this is when they did the iPad mini with Retina display. Retina display is amazing to hold and behold. Every photo is incredibly detailed, and every line of text is remarkably clear. Not a bad message, right? But let's change this to use some sensory words like vibrant and crisp. We can relate to things like that. So we changed that. iPad mini with Retina display is amazing to hold and behold. Every photo is incredibly detailed and vibrant, and every line of text is remarkably crisp and clear. Makes a difference. A little subtle difference, right? The power of mini stories. Apple tested, here's a great example of engaging using these are the AirPods, using mini stories, because you can use data, testing, product data, it comes from beta testing your product and things like that to create really great stories. Apple tested the Apple EarPods during various cardio workouts to ensure the EarPods provide strong protection from sweat and remain stable in the ear. That's okay, right? It's not really engaging, is it? Just tells me about your product. Apple engineers asked more than 600 people to test over 100 iterations of Apple EarPods. Testers ran on treadmills in extreme heat, yada, yada, yada. They performed various cardio workouts. They were even asked to shake their heads. You see the difference in that is that they are not telling, this is not what they say, this is not from their research, but based on asking more than 600 people to test. And that's the kind of feedback. So you're wanting to get that feedback based on what other people have experienced in using your product. They were even asked to shake their heads side to side, up and down. See, using that, we can picture that, right? We can picture being on the treadmill. The result, Apple EarPods provide stronger protection from sweat and water, and they're remarkably stable in the ear. Based on the story of what others have provided, the feedback from other people. Is there a big difference in that? So when you're engaging and you're creating stories out there, think of people that have done business with you. Think of people that have done business in the past, and if they have stories to share, those are the most powerful marketing messages that you could provide. Customer feedback and results that people have had. I know we always use the word testimonials all the time. Testimonials is kind of run its course in so many ways because testimonials don't mean a whole lot anymore, do they? I mean, if you've got a quote from somebody on your website or, big deal. Who knows? You could have, anybody could have put a quote up there. But if I can get a story of someone, one of your clients or one of your customers, and if I can get them to share their story before they use your service or your product, if I can get them to talk about that beforehand, that's so much more powerful than just a testimonial. Testimonials really just are, I guess we've just been inundated with testimonials today, and they just don't have the same kind of effect that they once did. But you know what? You can still use those testimonials and re-engage with your customers and say, we'd love to create a story based on your experience. Would you mind allowing us to do that? Your customers, if they've had a pleasant experience with you, more than likely are going to be happy to help, right? Not always, but you can give some incentive sometimes for them to do that. And we'll talk about some examples. All right, 7 steps to creating a good customer story. I don't know if I have this one. And yes, should be that last sheet. All right, this is a big, especially for everyone here, because we're not huge mega brands sitting in this room tonight. So we have to think guerrilla in terms of creating our story. We can't manufacture, a $10 million commercial for the Super Bowl, right? And I know it's a lot more than that, but we have to take the approach of guerrilla marketing, and when we plan our stories, we have to use a big part of those need to be our customers that have had happy experiences. Can anybody share from a personal standpoint in your own business, maybe some recent experiences that you would like to share with us from customers?
I just took a trip up to Seattle this past October.
Mm-hmm.
Took a tour of the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And they always talk about the people who made the most money were the people who went to go get the gold.
Yeah.
So people are selling tools. And one of the big person is Levi. Levi's.
Yep.
So where the money is not where people are looking. It's like it's
Mm-hmm.
it's in the materials.
Yeah.
Get you there.
That's a perfect example. Does anybody, you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, is your whole goal to buy, if you're buying a drill, what do you really want? Absolutely. You really want a hole. And from that hole, really what you want is the outworkings of what that hole's going to mean, which is the end result. But a drill is means to an end.
I've just remembered a great story of one of my customers. I sell this cleaning product that does everything. It's all natural and it doesn't smell at all.
Okay.
And a friend of mine has if you've seen these big balloon arches and the fantastic balloon creation, she does those.
Okay.
She also does fabric draping. So she was washing. It rained at a wedding or something, and she had the fabric draped all through her drying all through her studio, and her 4-year-old granddaughter comes along with a blue magic marker.
Oh, man.
And she thought, my God, what am I going to do? She said, well, I'll try branch basics. And it did. It worked.
It worked.
Took it out.
Took it right out.
That was a great story for that.
Now, was that paint or ink?
It was magic marker.
Oh, it was magic marker. Wow.
Or Sharpie or, something like that.
Which is hard to get.
It's hard to get out.
Very hard to get out.
So that was a good story.
So that's a story right there in and of itself.
Yeah.
So who's your hero there?
The product.
Hmm? Who's the hero?
Supplier of that product.
The supplier.
The hero is the customer because she thought to use the product.
Yes. And what were you? What was your product?
What?
The mentor, right?
Oh, I'm the mentor.
The mentor that comes in and helps.
Well, I didn't
provides
actually.
a solution.
She thought of it all on her own, but I did provide the product.
Making them the hero appeals to their ego.
Absolutely.
Got it. Okay. And I'm just the mentor guiding them.
You're just
saying
guiding them
ways.
through.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Please don't ever make the mistake of thinking your customer is the hero. You're not the hero. Your hero always needs to be your customer.
Yes.
You're just the mentor that guides them along the way, and that's what you want to be. That's what customers are centered. Remember that whole, Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar always say every customer that does business with you is tuned into a radio station called WIIFM. What is it?
What's in it for me?
That's it. What's in it for me, right? So they want to be the hero. They're always thinking about themselves, and you want them to be the hero. You just want to help them along the path. Because think about every great story, the hero at some point falters, right? In most stories. In most great movies, in most great stories, the hero is a hero, but they hit a rocky patch, right? So that's your customer. They hit a rocky patch, and you're there to get them back on track. You're like Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid.
Isn't there, is it Merrill Lynch that had that commercial with the weary,
Oh,
clients, you
yes.
know? And then they have these lines, and
Right.
where do I go? And
Yes.
then there's the Merrill Lynch rep who's like, over here.
He was like, and you would assume that
And
this
he
guy's
was
the hero.
the
but,
weary person on the journey.
Right.
Okay,
yep.
got it.
So that's what you want to be. You want to be, think of, that's a good, the Karate Kid. You want to be, your business needs to be Mr. Miyagi. And the Karate Kid is your customer, right? So let's talk about getting your customers involved in the story. You got to plan it out, obviously. They come from your customer, your client candidates. You got to get permission, obviously. I'm going to tell you, most people may think this is a problem, but I will guarantee you it is easier than you think to get a customer involved, especially if they have a pleasant experience with your business. It is not that hard. Sometimes we create barriers in our mind that say, why would they want to do that? Most people do want to help you out. Most people do want to help out and benefit you, and especially, if they've had a great experience, they want more than anything to be in your story and be a part of that. One of my clients is in he's one of my big clients is out in Houston, Texas. He's in the bariatric. He's a bariatric surgeon, and we do a lot of marketing campaigns, and a lot of it's video based because we like to create stories. So the story, and again, going back to your 5 steps, the hero in every one of our stories that we create for him are the people that come to him who are frustrated, emotionally just worn out from trying to lose weight, because it's not simple for them. When I say obese, they're not 20 pounds overweight. These people have hit rock bottom and they don't know what else to do, and they've tried everything, and they're 100 pounds overweight. And so they're the hero seeking a mentor in that. And he tells the story. We craft stories to talk about, and the key ingredient in that is to have that beginning, what it was like for that hero before the mentor came through and said, you know what, you don't have to live like that. You don't have to live the rest of your life wondering if you're going to have a heart attack, if you're going to die of diabetes. And so those are messages that resonate with other people. They're emotional stories. People.
I just had to share my.
Yeah.
My mother is like 85. My dad's 89, and I went to visit them recently, and she told me that she thought Dad was going to have barbaric treatment. They had prescribed it for him. So.
Barbaric treatment.
I said, I hope not. But,
Yeah, that would not be good. Yeah, so, in videos, when we create branding, we've done a number of videos to create stories, because we want the story to be customer-centric, or in his case, we don't call it, they're patients, but it's patient-centric, of people that have come through, and we don't just share we don't want them to tell a testimonial. We want them to share a story. We want them to share what it was like. And they hold a pair of jeans that are this wide out there that you can't imagine anyone being that size, but they were. Well, we tell a story of somebody that's had diabetes and has taken, I don't know how many cc's of insulin and medication every day for their life, and what that was like, and the misery of having to do that every day, and to go through a procedure that allowed them to completely, within 6 months, to completely get off all medication. That's a powerful story. And so that's what we do. That's a story that you start out with, what the problem was, how awful it was, and then lead them gradually, lead that hero through the progression I mean, going back to the Karate Kid, I think everybody seen the movie here? Yeah, wax on, wax off. But you know the story. Daniel, he starts out, he goes through the journey, he gets beat up. He doesn't know karate or anything. He gets bullied, beat up. That was his struggle, right? So everybody has a struggle that they go through, and you've got to pinpoint that struggle that they go to and how you've helped them along the way. Intelligence gathering, that's a big part of it, because you got to really hone in, and what we mean by intelligence gathering is really tapping into your existing customers and clients and really reactivating, going back to them and saying, can we talk, and I really want to know what we would really love you to share your story. And you want to really target clients, and sometimes we let clients or customers that have a wonderful experience, sometimes it's easy to let them go and say, oh man, I forgot. But you really want to engage with them when that experience is really where they're super excited of what's happened. You want to capture that right away, because you let it go for 6 months. It's not that they become dissatisfied. It's just become, okay, whatever. They're not as excited, right, as they were a month after their solution was solved. That's when you want to strike while the iron's hot, when they're most ready or they're most excited about what you've done for them. Create compelling stories. That's what we've been talking about. And leveraging those stories. What do we mean by leveraging those stories? How can we leverage a story that a customer provides for us? There we go. There's multiple platforms that we can share that story, can't we? When we have that one story of that great experience, we can go back and we can do a video. We could create a video story about it. And I'm going to share with you here in a minute some simple, you don't have to have the highest end equipment in the world to create great videos. You really don't. You don't have to have a photographer. No offense. But I mean, creating your own videos and things, I should say videographer, not photographer. But a videographer that comes in, and there are certain times you want to engage with videographers for more professional, but for the simple everyday stuff of creating customer stories within your business, you really don't have to. It doesn't really cost a fortune to do that, to really create some powerful stories using really some simple tools, and we'll talk about those in a second.
Sorry to keep interrupting, but
No.
I think it's a good idea. You could, if you've got somebody that has a great experience, you could interview them and cut yourself out of it.
Yes.
So, I mean,
That's
so
right.
you're asking them and you're videoing what they say,
Mm-hmm.
but then you just edit.
Absolutely.
That would be quite effective, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you could, absolutely.
Because you could feed them
You can just use the-
questions that will bring it all out.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is a perfect example of interviewing them. You've got the audio, and then you can really pull. Yeah, you can create a video out of it. The best thing is always to do if you can do a video, and then you can stretch. You can pull the audio out. Have an audio pod. You can post the audio on a podcast or post that on your site and get that out there. But yeah, we've done that for our book Selling on the Green. We did a couple of interviews where we conducted an interview and pulled a lot of the text of the questions that we were asking out of that, and that constituted an entire chapter because it was transcribed and turned into written format. And then, of course, we hired an editor to edit that. So the end result of an interview turned out to be a very great-looking chapter that was very readable because we had an editor that cleaned all of the ums and ahs and yeah, the things that you don't want in there. So that's a great point. But leveraging those stories means getting the most mileage you can out of them. In other words, taking those stories. If it is an audio interview, like Harold mentioned, I want to take that audio and add it to maybe some slides, and I'll show you how I've done that in the past using just simple slides and create a video out of it. I also want to have that transcribed or, posted in a blog. I want to have it in a mailing piece if I do any kind of direct mail or anything like that to write about the story. I want to get the most mileage as I can out of a simple story that one of my clients provides. I want to get as much as I can out of that. And with the technology today, it's so easy to do. I love this quote. I've learned that people will forget what you've said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That's a great line, Maya Angelou, and that's what we want to do as marketers. We want people to remember us by how we make them. We want to appeal to the perception, how we make them feel. How do you feel when you do business with us? We want to give them that pleasant experience. It's got to be from a sensory and from the emotional standpoint and not just logic. It's so easy to want to go after the why, the here and the why, and at some point that plays a part. But logic, people don't do business because you're the logical choice to do business with. People do business with you because you've made them feel great and they had a great experience, and you'll come back to them again. Just using that example with my bariatric surgeon client who, when the marketing message that we create, people don't do business based out of logic. It's all emotion. People at their wits' end, and they want solutions. And let me tell you, there are 95 other bariatric surgeons in Houston. So we have to work because he's got a lot of competition. So our job is to create stories that appeal and not say, well, this is why you should do business with him. Well, that doesn't make sense because there's so many, there's other people that do that, offer that service as well. We want to create stories, engaging stories based on his customers. And some of those we create really professional videos that are done scripted, and then some of them we have him take a simple camera and with one of the office personnel and just interview the intake, the patients when they come in and share their own story at the beginning and share some of their what some of the issues that they dealt with and some of the fears. We want them to talk about their fears too, the fears of doing something major like this. Because what does that do? It shares, there's a personality to them that says, I'm not sure if I want to go through this, and that's okay, because that it doesn't we want it to be authentic coming from them. You want your stories to be authentic. And so we want them to incorporate why they were unsure as to why they wanted to do that in the beginning, because that reinforces the end result when they said, I am so glad I did. That just gives that so much more weight. All right, let's talk about visual storytelling. This is fun. With Facebook, anybody use Facebook, Pinterest, all that stuff? You guys see a lot more visual displays on Facebook, right? A lot of images. People are going, I think since, the last couple of years where Facebook has changed things around, they've made it more, it's much easier to engage with your audience with images. So there's a lot of statistics that show that most of the engagement on Facebook, obviously Pinterest because it's all images anyway, but people engage with images much better than written text. I should say images or video. Just some stats. 90% of information transmitted to the brain is visual, and visuals are processed at 60,000 times faster than text. 40% of people respond better to visual information than plain text. This is nothing new. It's easier to engage with a video or with something that's storyboard that we can see pictures and things like that. That's why Pinterest is so popular. YouTube was so popular. Average modern attention span is somewhere between 2.8 and 8 seconds. Isn't that something? And what does that mean? That means you don't have a lot of time when somebody goes to your website. You better have an engaging story in the form of a video at the very top of your website. That's the key. That's a definite takeaway, because
And hope that the 2.8 to 3 seconds is not ate up with Internet Explorer loading.
Yeah. Does anybody still use Internet Explorer?
I don't know, Chrome is almost just as bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Safari. I still use Chrome occasionally, but I really like Safari. I guess I still am stuck on Safari, but yeah, I mean, you don't have long to get their attention, so I would recommend that, if you have a website or that people go to, if you can create a video story to share, have that at the very top that people can click on. Videos are going to keep people on, and Google has a thing in their analytics, and some of you internet guys know of the when it comes to bounce rate. People that aren't on a site very long, in Google's mind, when somebody comes to your site, leaves really quick, they consider that to be, well, your website's not very relevant. But if you can find ways through things like video, creating video stories and video, even if it's video testimonials where people can engage and stay on your site longer, that increases the likelihood that people will click from one page to the next and stay on a little bit longer. So time spent on a website is a good thing if people are staying on your site. So you want to get them. A great way to do that is through video. Clicking on video. A recent study of 739,000 tweets found that 76% of content that was shared had a photo. Photos are powerful. And really the marketing message, let's go back to this, because this is, okay, we're going back to Tom's. And, thank you. Going back to Tom's, this is off of their Facebook page. So this is an example of using really good visuals on a Facebook page. Oh, the battery's dead? Can I get you to shoot with my iPhone? You're going to have to, I wish I had a stand. But don't worry, this thing's got, I just got an iPhone 6, and it's got 128 gigs. So I've got, I've got a lot of room.
Laptops didn't used to have that much.
I know, isn't that amazing?
First desktop was 2 gigs.
I loaded everything from my other iPhone on, and I still had 85 gigs. I was like, wow. Let's see. All right, Boyd, hopefully you don't mind just holding that up. Thank you so much. So this is right off of Tom's Facebook page, and I was look at the quote. I was looking for a natural, cruelty-free toothpaste that really made my mouth feel clean. I've surely found that in this product. That's a pretty cool. That's a testimonial, but it's not like this product's great. I was really looking for a natural and cruelty-free toothpaste that really made my mouth feel clean. Who does that engage with, again? Going back to our original, what we were talking about. People that are concerned about the environment, concerned about products and what happens. And you look at their Facebook page, and a lot of it's not just the fact that of how they make the ingredients that are in the containers, but also how they make the containers themselves, so that they're they're not just plastic. I mean, they make, I think their toothpaste tubes are like aluminum, or is it aluminum?
I don't know, can you recycle them?
Yes, they are recycled. Yes, everything their containers are recyclable. So that's a big thing. Here's another image that they post, and I use Tom as an example. My wife, she buys, I think, a similar product to Tom's, but I think it's fluoride free It's probably whatever you got, but I can't remember the name of it.
There's those two.
Tom's of Maine Natural Care Brigade has collected 119,354 pieces of product packaging. This is equal in height to 41 Empire State Buildings. Wow, that makes you think. So what they're talking about is this Tom's of Maine has a natural care brigade, and what they do is they go out and collect, product packaging, so they don't, it doesn't end up. They recycle it so it doesn't end up, going through, just being tossed out and ends up at a landfill. So they're doing a lot of things that people who are fans of their products really love. So they're really just strengthening their brand with their own audience with what they post. Visual storytelling is defined as using images, videos, infographics, and presentations on social media platforms to craft a story around key brand values and offerings. So, given that you have only so much space and time for Facebook, there's not a whole lot of. It's got to be in a visual sense, right? It's kind of hard to tell a lengthy story on Facebook. It's kind of hard to tell a lengthy story on Twitter. So you've got to be able to create visuals that resonate with people. Social currency. This is, here's another book. I'm going to inundate you guys with books, but you'll get a lot of great ideas from a book. This book called Contagious is a fantastic book. I read a lot of the books that I read on Audible, so I can go through them really quick because I don't have time to. It's so much easier for me just to listen to, if I'm at the gym or something like that, just listen to a book. And you can actually, the great thing about Audible is you can put it on double the speed. It sounds kind of funny, but you can get through it really fast, like you're listening to chipmunks. But social currency is the idea that people share things that make them look good. A funny video, think about it. Facebook, what are people sharing on Facebook? Stuff that really, really is going to make them look good, right? Something that makes them, something that they can get behind that makes them look good. They want to be the first to share it because it makes us look smart and in the know. Isn't that the case? You see a lot of people posting videos and posting images that make them either look funny, smart, well-informed. You got people posting everything on Facebook, from politics to sports to you name it. But the people that get the most engagement from that, the people that like to share that, obviously it resonates with somebody that's already, again, part of that target market. All right, 7 elements to visual storytelling. Is this? I guess I didn't. You can write this down. And this goes to the visual side of creating visual ads. Design, personalization, usefulness. Your message, your visual design has to be personal. You want it to engage in a personal level. You don't want to sound like you're coming from a big mega brand or anything like that. So it's got to be useful. It's got to be personalized to them. Just like going back to that Tom's ad, how personalized was that with that testimonial?
Sorry, Jonathan, but it went dark. Is there something wrong?
It may be the battery here, too. No, it didn't. Oh, wait. There we go. It's on. I don't know why. Was it recording earlier?
It was until I looked up and looked down. It was dark.
Usefulness, personality, storytelling, and share worthiness. What is share worthiness?
It's good. People want to share it.
Right. Usefulness. What do you think we mean by usefulness?
They get something out of it, some information.
We want something that doesn't waste our time, that we can get some benefit from, that's useful. Share worthiness, storytelling, personality, usefulness, personalization, design. What are some elements outside of just images and videos that you see a lot of that tell a story?
Reviews.
Reviews, yeah. Online reviews. Those are good. Do any of you catch the infographics at times? You can see it, a lot of times you see them on blogs, websites. Sometimes you see them on on companies' Facebook page or Facebook pages. So images, videos, infographics, I think, are some of the most powerful. Videos are quite powerful. Does anybody look at Vine now? Vine is like an 8-second, I think 6 to 7 second type video that people can post. So it's really hard to get your message across with that. But if you can keep your videos within a 2 to 3 minute span of sharing your story, then that's a great way. I mean, video is one of the best ways to do that. Images, again, images some of the best images that you can use if you can get a really engaging image and use customer testimonial on top of that, or a story or a quote of some sort. Those are great. And when we were doing our Facebook ads, a lot of our Facebook marketing ads for our book Selling on the Green, when we were launching, we were targeting, we were doing target markets to golfers and golfers who happen to be business executives on Facebook. So we were very specific in our target marketing. But one of the things we did was use quotes from famous golfers with images of golf courses, and we got some really good engagement from some of the quotes from guys like Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus and some of the old greats that had some really great quotes that we could use that kind of went with our book. And so we would post those with links. We'd have a quote, and then we'd have an image of a golf course. It was a really high resolution image, and we'd post those on a regular basis. And people would share those. People would share those quotes because a lot of golfers like to just, share stuff. So they'll share it with other people, and of course it has your message on the bottom. Infographics. There's a really great site that I like to use. It's called, how to create, I'll get to that in a second. How to create powerful visuals. Anybody outside of, do you do a lot of video or image editing and stuff, or what kind of software do you use for Photoshop?
Yeah.
That's the big one. That's the one that. But for anybody that's not a photo, doesn't have a lot of experience with editing photos, there's a great site called Pixlr.com that you can use, and I think they have it's actually, you don't even have to download anything. You can access it online and edit a lot of your videos there. Really great service.
Is that videos or?
No, it's images. So Pixlr.com, that's Pixlr.com. Another great site is a site called Easily. That's
cute.
Yeah, isn't that great? So there's no .com. It's EASEL.LY. Easily. And so what you can do from this thing is awesome. And if you go to, I'll send everybody, here's a link where I actually this is my podcast page, but I actually have a review of this site. It's really great. So what you can do when you go to that site is you can download templates, and they have they have so many templates of infographics. And what they do is they let you change everything around, and you can customize your own visual infographic on there based on your business and change it all around. So they have some great looking templates that you can download and use and really create some nice looking story images for your business. So
would you put your own, obviously put your own text in, would you put your own photographs in?
Yeah, you can add your own images. You can they even have on this Easily, they even have a template where you can delete what they have and insert some of their own custom graphics that you want to use, or you can add your own stuff to the pictures, to the images. Very simple to do. Again, when I send out the slide and the video to everyone, I will have the link. The link will be on the PDF slide that you can click on, and I've got a review, and it shows you how exactly, step by step, how to use that website. But it's really neat. You can really create some nice looking infographics. Who has a Facebook page in here? Okay. These are great for Facebook pages, creating infographics. So, and if you open up like USA Today, you see, I mean, just about every morning, if you still read the paper, they always have some engaging infographics on there to get their point home, and that's always a great way because it engages the visual senses. For movies, you can do iMovie, ScreenFlow for Mac. Does anybody do any video editing, simple video editing in here? Okay. What do you use on your videos?
We use Windows Movie Maker.
Okay, and that works. I mean, that's a great program for on PC-based program to create some really nice videos. I like for PC for ScreenFlow. It's great because you can use you can actually record screencast videos. But I also like it because some of these video editing programs, even if you don't record video, you can go out and get some stock video. You can get a stock image and create a collage and turn it into a video. So it really looks nice. I'll give you an example. If I can, I wanted to bring some speakers, so I hope the volume's good in here. Let's see. All right, here, I'm going to pull up. Oh, I may need to, I forgot the password.
Guest or something.
Guest. Let's see.
No, I think guest would be the password.
Oh, guest is the password?
Guest and welcome, I think.
Oh, well, maybe.
Guest and welcome. Guest is the username and welcome. Okay.
We should have it in there, so.
Yes. All right, let's see. Here's our main site for the book that we did on Selling on the Green. For whatever reason, this when I hook up to the projector, it makes my screen go berserk. So here's the video that we did, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to hear this. Let's see, let me make sure I turn the volume up. Okay, volume's all right.
Golf is more than a game.
Can you guys hear
It's
that?
more
It's
than
about
a
as loud.
leisure sport played on Sunday afternoons. In the world of business, it's a way of building relationships.
I did the voiceover.
We live in a
for this video.
hyper-connected society today, where people define relationships by Facebook friends, Twitter followers, and LinkedIn connections.
So this image right here is a stock image I just got from a site. You can get a lot of these stock image sites. You can get stock video. It's not very expensive either. So if you don't have the video that you want recorded, you can get something like this and then add in, very easy to add, background sound and do a voiceover in there over that video. And then
So there's something special
you can mix
about
it
a
in
game
with-
that takes you away from all the digital noise and allows you to connect one-on-one with another person.
and then create just images
In
as
today's
a part of your
world,
video. So
your
you really,
ability to
I mean, you
sell
can tell
ideas,
stories, but
products,
you don't
or
have to
services
have
will rely
you know,
on building solid relationships.
a,
the
you know,
kind that can
photog-
be
or a
established from a
videography
one-hour
crew
lunch
in
meeting
there,
or
you know,
sales
doing some
call.
high professional.
Golf.
This is a stock video
That
too.
adventure through fairways, bunkers, and other hazards still remains one of the greatest ways.
So
of
everything
building those
except
lasting
one little
business
clip on here
connections.
was pretty much stock images and stock video that you can put together and use to create your message. So
So I got a question.
yeah,
Is that an advantage to using Vimeo as YouTube? So like, what I've heard is Vimeo, you can't really share it. It doesn't have like that social community.
yeah, it's Vimeo's tough because for that very reason, you really want if your idea is to plan on spreading it, you really want to have it on YouTube. If you're just creating a marketing, I would suggest if you're creating a marketing video for just your website, is to have that video that's on Vimeo to be the one that's on your website, because what YouTube does is they crunch down your videos so much nowadays that they don't have the same quality as Vimeo. So you really want to upload it to two. You want to have one uploaded to share on YouTube, but then you want to have this one be like the video, kind of your main video that shows up on your website or anything like that. And then you can post video on Facebook as well. So
Search engines, YouTube. is
yeah,
better also.
yeah, YouTube for the search engines. That's why you really need two locations, more than one location. But this being the quality, I mean, Vimeo always has higher HD quality, so you really want that to be what gets posted on your website. A lot of people make the mistake of posting their YouTube video on their website when they really should upload to Vimeo, because you can get a free account with Vimeo and post it there, because it's going to have a much sharper look to it. So, all right. Well, how would anybody like to kind of share a little bit about their business as far as creating? Maybe we can all kind of look at some ways to create some stories around, or is this kind of just giving you something to think about that you want to take home? I'm just open to, at this point, to anybody who wants to share.
Since I'm young.
Okay.
Unless you tear me away.